Hello, friends. Welcome to the Girl in the Mountain live show. I just want to say the Girl in the Ice for every book, even though it's not even a title or the series title, but it does impact the Girl in the Ice. I don't like running live shows anymore. Why am I doing this? Hi. I would love to know what everyone rated this book. I would ask you if you had a favorite character, but that would require us to actually remember character names. And I feel like we failed at that last time, but we can try. And we're just going to go around in a circle. It'll be spoiler-free thoughts, but if all of you would say what I just asked, and then maybe just like a little brief spoiler-free thought. And Mel, you can start.
Remembering character names is hard. I think Theron, is that his name? Maybe.
Yeah.
Liked him. That's a name that stuck. So we're gonna go with one of my favorite characters because that name stuck. Do you want a rating? Was that one of the questions?
Yes.
Okay. My rating, I think, is a 3. I was beyond bored in the first 2/3 and more interested but not enthralled in the second or the last third. So those are my spoiler 3 thoughts.
What did you give it? I wasn't listening. I was trying to look up my favorite character's name. 3. Okay.
I settled at a 3, but I'd say the first half of the book is like a 2-star and the second half of the book is more of a 4-star, 3.5. So rating wise, it came out at exactly the same thing that all the other books have come out, but I felt more conflicted about this one. I think if it had been like the first half, it would have been a 2-star, 2.5-star book for me. And favorite character, I liked Theron in book 1, and then I hated his POV, and I hated Quell's POV. So I guess Yaz, because I was excited to get back to her every time. And I liked Eris too. Those probably are my favorites.
I don't know.
That's fair.
Do I have a favorite? I mean, yeah, I don't really know if I have a favorite character. In fairness, I don't dislike any of them. I'm just meh.
I would agree.
And
Same.
I'm giving it. In fairness, I did only finish it today, so I didn't really think. I'm gonna give it a 3-star probably, but like, it's getting to the point where I want to give his books 2 stars because of the fact like they're all just so meh to me. But I can't say that I like this like less than literally every other book that I read from him. So, but also it's getting to the point that it's annoying me more that I'm not liking his books.
That's fair.
Okay, I don't have a favorite character because I don't like these characters at all. Like, and I mean, I liked Maya in the first one. So I guess that kind of carried over in the second one, but like, not really. I technically gave it a 3 stars, and it's only because I can appreciate the significance of the ending, and I didn't want the like me not reading other things to be like unfair to the book, but like my actual enjoyment was probably a 2-star.
That's fair.
Yeah, because I liked like the first like 30 pages and the last 30 pages, and I didn't like anything in between. So
honestly valid. I gave this one 3 stars on reread, which it was a 5-star book originally, so that's saying something. My favorite character is Maya. I actually agree with Sahar that in this book itself, none of the characters really shine to me. I don't really like any of them in book 2. I liked some in book 1, but in this one, I was like, wow, where'd your personality go?
They just exist. They don't do anything.
It's not character driven in this book.
Yeah.
This book is all about the reveals. Like reveal after reveal after reveal after reveal.
I got reveal whiplash, to be honest.
Yes. And I knew them. So it was even worse because I was bored, I think. That's also why I think I was very bored, because I was like, well, I know these reveals and there's nothing else happening other than
because
reveals.
I don't even think there's like there's like a bit of a plot, but you can't really say it's like it's a reveal driven book.
Yes.
So like it's not even plot driven. It's just trying to get from each reveal to the next.
Yep. There's a lot of like traveling, but traveling. It felt like traveling. It felt like traveling to me.
There was a lot of travel. Like I was talking about it in my vlog. I was like, normally I like traveling books, like Lord of the Rings. I love that stuff, but this, I was like, I don't care.
Interesting, because I didn't feel like there was that much traveling, and I hate traveling.
The traveling was my favorite part. That was like the 4-star part for me.
I did not like it.
But I like traveling in most books. Like I like
Yeah.
traveling, especially in like extreme climates.
Mm-hmm.
Like the overlap. 3.5 stars. Don't really have a favorite character. Hence the rating. I want Yaz to be Nona. 4 stars. Painful reread regression. Ouch. This is why I don't reread books, though. So it's just cemented my feelings that I should not be rereading things. That hurts when a reread ends up being a lower rating than originally. I also gave it 3.5 stars. Felt very meh about all the characters. That's what is confusing me about them saying like the second half is better. It's just ice and ice and oh look ice. I actually wait for the second half. I feel like interesting things actually happened in the first half. I was not interested. I didn't
only like the last little bit with the stuff and the thing that I won't say yet because we're not in spoilers.
Yeah. Does anyone in the comments have anything to say? Non-spoilery. I feel like everyone here has actually probably read the book because you're at the second one and pretty much always spoilers. But before I move us on, I feel like the pacing was really off on this one for sure. Characters weren't that good and reveals.
It was like 2 books in one. That was my issue with it. And the 2-star feeling. I feel like first half was a book and second half was a book, and they just rushed both.
Yeah. I was so excited for the beginning of this book just because of how book 1 ended. It's going to be so good. And like for the first 30 pages, I was like, okay, I can see things happening. I could see this series turning around for me. And then that was it. It was just the 30 pages. And then I was like, where did it go? Like, where was that intense moment that I wanted?
I don't know why they do what they do between like page 30 to like page 150. I was like, this is useless in my head. Like, why did we go here? Like, even the reveals we got in that felt like things I had already known or figured out and didn't need.
I felt like the ending of the last book and the first 30 pages of this book almost didn't, like, they didn't matter. I was like, why did we even end it to go into this when we were immediately going to get out of it? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of people have said that it should be a duology rather than a trilogy, because if that little bit is the only thing we were going to get from this intense like cliffhanger in book 1, then you might as well just made it like a chapter ending and then you get to the next chapter.
My problem is I do think the reveals in this, there's like a lot of plot reveals that happen, a lot of information that we need, but it was just done so poorly. It was just done in info dumps, really, instead of like a nice thoughted book. But I do think this book was necessary because I feel like if we just went to where I think the story goes in book 3, we'd be like, wait, what? Which I think we're still going to be like, wait, what? But
wait, have you not read book 3?
No.
Oh, I didn't realize this. Interesting. Okay.
You haven't either, right, Mel?
No, I hadn't read any of this series. This is all first time for me.
This hurt me, but to fear the only reason for the 5 is that second half. I would agree that I give it a 5 for the second half. I also had waited a year and a half between reading for 1 and 2, and so I think that I just thought I was forgetting things and just let it like roll. Not that the book wasn't doing a good job. And when reading them so close together, I was like, no, this book is not doing a good job. Because it's not that I forgot things. It's that things just don't make sense. Okay. With that, I think we are just going to go into spoilers because I think it'll be an easy and a short discussion today. I think this is one of the only times we've all agreed on a book.
Last time we were fairly in agreement.
Yeah. Does anyone have anything to say? Oh, also, I should say we're going to keep it Book of the Ancestor spoiler free for a while, just because there are some people who haven't read the Book of the Ancestor, but obviously there are connections to the Book of the Ancestor. I personally, I was talking to Jonathan about this before, think it doesn't truly matter. I think you'll go into Book of the Ancestor with more information now for Book of the Ancestor, and if you read this first. But I do think reading experiences would be different. But I definitely think that you can read this without reading Book of the Ancestor. But you'll know a lot more for Book of the Ancestor now than you did before. But we're going to keep that spoiler free, and then we're going to do that at the end. I think after the slow plot of book 1, the opening of this book just hurls you in all this info and it acts like you're supposed to know things that book 1 didn't really tell you. I would agree.
Yeah,
They set up
so this
every
book
single one of
going.
his books though. Like that reminder is, and you're like, when?
I actually went and read the Girl in the Moon recap before this and went, I should lower my rating another star because I didn't know half of this stuff. And I've read it twice.
I felt like that though, with a lot of his recaps. Even in Book of the Ancestor, there were still things that I was like, oh wait, I didn't like. I get that now that you say it, but I didn't get it when I finished the book.
I'm really curious because I didn't feel that way on reread of Book of the Ancestor, so I'm wondering if book 3 is going to be where like everything just completely makes sense.
The recaps annoy me because it just highlights how subtle his writing is and how obvious he can be. And I don't want it to be as obvious as the recap, but I want it to be less subtle so that I'm not feeling like there's new information that I read the entire book. And I felt that way about all of his recaps.
Yeah, when I was go ahead.
No,
I think I was just going to say I struggled so hard not zoning out in this one that when we did have reveals, sometimes it would take me a second to be like, wait, that was a reveal. How did we get to here? Oh, I missed something. Because it was just so easy when we were talking about the ice for so long.
That was literally what I was about to say. He was like one of the only authors where I have had to actually go back pages. Like, I'm pretty sure I just missed something.
Yeah.
I never have to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly confused when I was reading this, and I had to do the same thing. Like I'd have to like reread paragraphs to make sure like, okay, wait, what was going on? And yeah, it was just so much ice all the time, especially when like they were traveling. They were like talking about the ice, observing the ice, and I was like, I get it, it's cold. Like I was just so like frustrated. It felt like it was slogging. I was like, can we get, and like because everything else was like dragging for me, anytime we did get a reveal, it was just like, oh, here's a little carrot for you, so that you're not bored. And then like, okay, back to like nothing happening.
I loved the ice stuff because I thought learning about the ice tribes is just really cool in general. Like I really liked learning that and like learning little tidbits of this not being Earth for sure. Like it's confirmed that it's not Earth and that people came from space and that the missing are a 5th tribe. So like learning all of that while they were on the ice was really interesting for me. So I think that's why I liked the traveling parts. But I understand if people were missing this.
I liked how kind of character driven the ice parts were, which I get why they were slow and boring potentially, but I liked that we kind of just hung out with the characters and the cultures and got to like know more about them because that's what I enjoy in general. But I think like as far as confusion, this to me, I even texted Cassidy. I was like, do people talk about this as like a sci fantasy? Because this feels more like a sci fantasy to me than other series that are talked about that way. And so I think I was confused, but I also just assume I'm always confused with all science fiction. So I just was like, it's fine. Carry on.
I think that for me, a lot of like the ice stuff that we got that was new information was interesting, but I don't know what it was, but it just seemed like there was so much of repetitiveness. Like, well, this is what the Ichtha do. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. And I understand he was trying to hammer home certain character traits and I get why, but it just felt so repetitive and like, give me some more information. Stop telling me the Ichtha are strong over and over and over again. Cause I got that already. We need to describe it differently to me.
So I think that's because the big guess that everyone has was that the Ichtha are the missing
descendants.
But he kind of confirmed that they're not and that they were just one of the 4 tribes that went by, like they just like left and went somewhere else and they've been hiding essentially and on their own. So like that's what the information
Yaz is a descendant of the missing specifically, right? Did I get that correct?
I don't know if that's confirmed or not.
I think they said that's why she has all the power in the end.
She is not a blood. She's only a half-blood.
But they said she was a missing blood or something. Like where did I? Can I find this?
There's a lot of information everywhere, Mickey. Yeah. This is not the time. Thank you.
I'll look for it. But I also wanted to say, like, I agree, Mel, about the repetitiveness, but I would have liked less repetitiveness, but I liked the contrast of like they're telling her she's strong, and then we have the moment where she like realizes that she would have just kept walking and left her friends, and that she doesn't want to be like this. Like I liked the kind of character conflict of like, this is how we've always been and this is not how I want to be, and I liked that journey for her.
You're correct. She is of the missing.
I'll find it if I can.
You mean you didn't keep red receipts, Maria?
I did, but they all just say more missing information.
A lot of information in this book. Like,
I'm literally referring to page numbers in my notes, but I wasn't able to highlight because it's on a Kindle.
Yeah.
go away, cat.
The only I thought it said I did.
I did not take any notes. I used to when we first did it.
I think the only part in this book where I was like, I felt any emotion was like things that were happening with Maya. And that was like really the only part that I was like actually wanting to like read this book. Because I just, like Maria, you said the traveling was very like character driven, which I usually like, but because I didn't care about any of the characters, I was like, okay, well, I don't really want to spend time with you because you suck. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
I'm
was-
not a character-driven reader, so like the information we got on the ice was cool for me.
mhm.
But it was like character-driven information, but it also connected to like the wider world.
Yeah, I think it's also I like extreme climates. Like one of my favorite YA book series was like book one is traveling through a desert, and I just love the like fighting for survival.
Yes,
in
like
that. So
watching
also that.
him just like use all of his magic to make them a shelter every night, and her just feel so bad that she's asking this of him. That was like one of my favorite scenes. I was like, oh my god, that'd be so heartbreaking, but like you have to do it.
And the fishing when they was like closing up on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like
Or when they were
whole-
looking for the sea.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just this is funny though. You know what's funny is
Yeah.
I actually wanted Quell to stay. I know everyone else hated him, but I think he's such an interesting character.
I was so glad that we didn't have to read his point of view, because literally just being in it for any amount of time, I was like, get me out of here.
I liked his POV. I was like, yes, Quell's POV. It's fun to see like someone else's take on everything. That's like
Yeah.
different. Hold on, I need
I
to
mean,
yell.
like, on the one hand, like, I was like, I mean, it's interesting to see how, like, all of these things, but I was also like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, he was so annoying. Like the amount of times he was like, "Oh yeah, it's like love of my life. We're gonna just
Yeah, so we
like
can share a
family.
tent.
We're gonna." And I was like, "Dude, she doesn't like you." Like,
And he's literally like, she was
over it.
mine. She would have been mine. Like it's just so possessive in his brain. Thurin too. Like Thurin was also very like,
Yeah.
all
I
I
agree
care
with
about is saving Gaz and not her friends. And I was like, well, she won't like that about you.
yeah,
I think for Quell, I found that very interesting because it just shows you what life is like on there and how Yaz just isn't the same. Like
It made
she
sense for him. Yeah.
wanted to like break that. But I also liked that obviously Quell felt these ways, but he was also kind of changing his opinion just a little bit just to help her.
I think I ended up feeling more positive about him at the end of his POVs and hating Thurin more, whereas he was one of my favorites in book one. So it was like a reverse.
and I feel like we could have gotten more character development from Quell if he had not left.
I agree. I think he
Mhm.
would have made a really
Yeah.
good character to see change.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially since we see him, like, kind of, like, obviously, like, he was, like, being like, yeah, sure, I'll go down and get Yaz for you and all of this, and, like,
yeah,
not really caring about anything else. And then, like, when he is basically, oh, no, like, yeah, you can go, but we're keeping Xena and Yaz. And he was kind of like, no. So, like, I did appreciate that bit of growth. But, like, also then, like, getting rid of him and the brother, I was like, I guess because like friendship was the whole point of the first series, and then I was like, I thought like family, siblings was going to be the whole point of this one, and I was like, oh no.
She just leaves him after all that.
yeah. I mean, that was like my biggest thing in book one too. Is like the whole plot was her going after her brother, and she like didn't do that for like hundreds of pages.
True.
And then we finally get them together, which we had barely seen in book one. And then they just separate. I was like, what is why? Why are we doing this? Why are we emphasizing these like familial relationships when we're not even going to get to see them?
This is me not being a character reader that I did not care that they left. I was like, oh yeah, that makes she doesn't want to come, leave him, go on your journey. You got him out of the pit. And then I think she realized that the pit could be better than outside for him too. But
her reasons for leaving it made sense, but I didn't like. I think again, if it had been all of book 2 was the first half, not that I would have enjoyed that more, but it would have not felt as abrupt as her like leaving him after all that work to get him back.
Yeah.
It's funny that when you had said book 1 and like the first half and the second half feel like 2 separate books, the moment that they left, I went, oh, well, there's where the second half starts, because it just felt like a closure to a new opening. So I see that.
It felt like a start of literally, I was like, this is what I thought book 3 would be.
I think it's interesting. I think for me, I know we talked a lot about the brother in book 1, and I didn't care about that either. Like the way like she turned. I think book 1 is about Yaz. Even though like the main motivation was her brother, I think book 1 is about her realizing that she is different than everyone else. That like it's her journey, and her brother is just the like initial like cause of it. And so I think that's why like I do not like it was never about her brother to me. So like, it makes sense that her brother, it's like putting that to rest when they leave him.
Yeah, I can see that, but then like at the same time, if your whole motivation as a character is to like go find your brother and like be with your brother, especially because like the tribes, they talk about like family and all of these things being important, it like just kind of felt disconnected to me.
Except for that in her tribe, it's really, once they show like it's not about like everything
for adults.
Well, just like her like her motivations and the way that she is, and like the way that they emphasize the fact that they're siblings, and she like went after him and like all of this stuff, and then like we don't see that.
Yeah,
I wish we hadn't emphasized it as much, because then I wouldn't care about the fact that it doesn't exist.
I think it's interesting because I don't think it's emphasized that much, so I think that's like different readers too, which I think is just really cool in general to see, because like for me, she just wanted to save her brother from becoming one of the bad things down in the ice, and she did that. And so like it wasn't about like being with him, it was about saving him, and she saved him.
I agree with both, like 50-50. I feel like it was about saving him because she hadn't saved her other brother, so it was like partly he represented something versus like about him specifically. But I also think that it becomes about like there is a bond there, and I do think it was emphasized in book 1, and so I cared about them as siblings. And maybe if she had not dropped him off, just like maybe bring him to the like tribes. I know she's like, I can't leave my parents after all this, but what if something happens to him and Quell? Like there's so many bad things that have happened already. It felt very like, I'm trusting that you'll be fine.
I did like hearing about what happened to her other brother in this book, like the whole scene, and like how she was trying to save him.
Quell's perspective of it.
Yeah.
I don't even remember any of that. I'm like, another brother? What?
No, Quell tells like the story. So Yaz's side of it in book 1, and she like focuses on it a lot. Maybe it's a character-driven thing again that I like picked up too, Sahar, where she talks about how like she looked away for a second and the brother falls out of the fishing boat, and she wasn't strong enough to like help get him out because of her weakness, because of like the thing that she should have been thrown into the pit to start with. And then in Quell's POV, he talks to, I think it's Thurin, about her, and he says that like the boat literally turns over from how hard she's holding on to.
I do remember that now.
And to the like rod or whatever it was that they were using, and that Yaz has remembered it as like she couldn't save him, but he remembers it as like she tried harder than anyone ever possibly could have. Yeah.
And I think that's why it made me feel like her like family is so much more important to her too, because like we got that scene, and so we understood how like she was trying so incredibly hard to save her brother, like that she literally knocked everyone out of the boat, like it's like tipped over and everything. And so that's like another reason why I was like, oh, I wanted a little bit more of her with Zine in this book.
Don't remember that scene at all. Like, but to be fair, I probably would skip over it because I'd be like, oh, this is just boring character backstory. Oh God. I really hate Theron. Yeah. Maya's death, I wanted to hit me harder.
I didn't care.
Yeah, I didn't. Especially because I feel like I cared more about her character in the first 100 pages when she like comes to save.
Yeah.
her and like her reasoning of like we got to go or whatever. And then when that happened, I was like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to care, but I don't really. And I didn't even remember it from the first time, so I was like, it really didn't impact me the first time either.
That's fair.
How did you feel about any of the reveals? Crickets.
Which one? There were so many.
I just wanted someone to talk about something.
The not spoiler ones.
Yes.
For the other series. I didn't love how the missing are referred to as like a separate category than the 4 tribes, because really they were the original tribe. So I wish that confused me in my brain a lot, because then we find out they're kind of all just the same, but they got there first, but they had powers, but the rest don't. Like that's where they had technology and the tribes had the powers. I can't remember who had the powers. That's my issue, I guess. That whole setup I find confusing.
I believe the missing got there first, but they did go missing. But they're essentially just people from Earth. So that's why they're the same as the tribes.
They're just referred to like all this time as like this separate almost race, it feels like. That's how it was like indicated to me. So it felt weird to be like, oh, they're really just like the first tribe and the rest are like the next 4.
Which I liked, so I think that's fun, because I was like, oh, that's so interesting. This whole time I've been like wondering who they are, and they're just like more people from Earth that got there first. And that they are now gone and did like weird technology things. Did y'all catch up on Elantrians? Did y'all catch on all the like the Greek stuff in here? Like so much Greek stuff.
Hades.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then the battle between Hades and Taproot for
Does that make
green
her
stuff.
name Malaya Persephone? Sorry, I just had a thought. Is that like the Persephone thing?
That was the impression I got.
Okay.
With her having to like come back and only every like so many seasons or whatever, that she was basically Persephone.
Okay.
I have an interesting thought just that you guys just triggered for me, but we have to talk about it.
Don't forget it.
Yeah, someone remind me.
Make a note.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting to see all like the Greek myths and stuff, and how Hades wants to like destroy humanity. I thought that was cool.
I was kind of just like there being like, why though? Why the Greek myths? But then I was like, I mean, I guess he doesn't really need a reason. Maybe
No.
he's just feeling like a Greek mood, you know? Maybe he's in a bit of a Greek mood, you know?
I'm curious if his other series, the like sci-fi series, has more of a reason. As I know from Reddit that Taproot is like the main character of that series.
Interesting.
Like Dr. Taproot or something. Or maybe not the main character, but he's like really like in that series. So I'm curious if that would explain more of like the Greek stuff.
Maybe. I just remembered my actual favorite character, and I'm kind of annoyed that Rachel didn't remind me of this, because my actual favorite character of the book is Zox, and I'm not happy about the reveal with him.
Yes, the Zox reveal. First time I was like, wait, what?
Literally, I was like, if he dies, I will give this book 1 star. I like him.
I almost said something about that a minute ago, and then I was like, wait, which part of the book? Like, where are we at?
I would say this. See this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of the sci-fi series. Me too. Obviously, I have to read it now. Also, none of you guys would catch this because I only know this from actually. Never mind. I'll talk about it later. So many book the ancestor things, but like they don't matter to the actual plot. They're just like little things that I'm like, oh, I picked up on this now. Sorry, I failed.
You did. I liked the chickens at the end. Like I liked how the horses have their reactions to everything.
It's like scary.
Yes.
I mean, I can't blame them. I would also have that reaction.
It made
And
so
I know
much
it's
sense,
chicken
but it was hilarious because we were like,
It
chicken.
was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I think near the end, like there was a little bit more humor that I appreciated. And I think that's why I enjoyed like the ending too. Because obviously like Book of the Ancestor. Like I don't know what's going on, right? But like seeing those little moments was funny. Like even with Zox, like when I think at one point she was like, yeah, thankfully standing on like 2 legs. Like can't imagine him crawling around like 4 legs or like something like that. And I just thought that like little like couple sentences, I was like, oh, okay, like made me giggle a little bit. Like imagine him like talking and like walking around all 4s. So.
I'm really intrigued to see if you like Book of the Ancestor, because I think Book of the Ancestor has more humor than this one.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Nona. So
I mean, I own Red Sister, so I think I'll try it. And if I don't love book 1, I'll just probably give up on Mark Lawrence. But
That's fair. Yeah.
that's 100% fair. I probably would.
yeah,
I would
which
say
sucks
it doesn't
because
change
I
between
have Prince of Thorns too. I for some reason just bought one in every series and then like didn't read them.
Prince of Thorns, I think, is a very different vibe, but like you could know a chapter in. Like if you do not like Jorg, do not read that book. Like he is not a good person. But there's a lot of humor in that one, but it's definitely like grim humor. Like he is making fun of women, and
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
it's very much a character thing. Like you can tell it's grimdark. So
Yeah.
like,
I'm annoyed about Theus or however we say it, like Prometheus, so Theus.
Yeah.
I'm annoyed that he keeps coming back and that every time Yaz is like, I've got him out of there for sure. Because I just at this point, it's happened so many times that I'm never going to learn again. Like it feels like it's too many for me to then actually believe
that
they
was fun.
successfully got him out.
Yeah,
of
I think he popped back up like 3 times in this book.
Mm-hmm. And each time she's like, I got him out with the stars. Did you? Apparently not.
Yeah.
I have a theory on that. I think that he uploads himself to the path.
Interesting.
And so the path is everywhere.
It makes
and
sense.
Nowhere all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's not actually going from person. He's just kind of everywhere.
Always there.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I probably would hate that less.
I probably would.
Also why I guess I like really non-spoiler ways why I think a character we know has to go back somewhere and how that character does that.
Mm-hmm.
And what we know of that character from Book of the Ancestor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Totally.
Mel, did you follow me? I feel like Maria and Bex followed me on that one, but I can explain it later.
Yeah, you're gonna probably have to explain it to me later because honestly, like a lot of this book is a bit of a blur, and I should probably reread it because I just
don't hate it more.
I'm just trusting in the recap and the conversation to like catch me up on some of the stuff because I know I missed things.
I'm reading the recap right now to figure out what we need to talk about.
Also, can we talk about the fact because like this also kind of ends on like a bit of a cliffhanger, and I'm like, that didn't happen in Book of the Ancestor, did it?
This is before.
Yeah, I know, but like in those books, as in like
No, it did end on
end them on cliffhangers, did it?
Book 1 definitely did. We are left questioning if someone made it. I'm fairly certain. I think that's where that one ended, right?
I'm confused.
Yeah,
No,
I'm
as
pretty
in,
sure.
as in his
I
level
think that they had
on
cliffhangers.
cliffhangers in this series versus series number 1.
Yeah, but you can change your writing style.
Yeah, I know, but I was just like, interesting.
I think how this compares to like Book of the Ancestor for me and what I don't love about how he plots, which is totally fair. It's just not my preference. I think that he kind of just does what each book needs. It's not like a cohesive thing across the series. And I remember we had a Book of the Ancestor complaint about that where we said like, it doesn't make sense the way that the book 3 is told versus book 2. And same with this one. It's like all of a sudden we have these POVs that we didn't have before, that we go back to all Yaz. Like it just feels very like he does what he needs to in the moment.
He kind of
I don't like it.
There's an interview that he pretty much said that he calls himself a gardener when it comes to writing, and he just does. He takes like he's opportunistic, and
totally fair. I just like when it's more.
Definitely not a plotter, which is interesting with how much everything connects. It feels really hard to not be a plotter if you're connecting all of it, because like Prince of Thorns is theorized to connect as well because Taproot's in it at one point. So
that also Maria, what you said like triggered a thought that I was having while I was reading this, or just like how I felt about this book. I liked that we got like more than just Yaz's POV in this one, but I didn't like how he executed it. And I think it might have to do a little bit with the pacing too, but it felt like we were in like Yaz's POV and then we would jump to like Thurin or Quell for like a long time.
Yes.
And then when we got back to Yaz, I was like, wait, where was she? What was going on with her? And it would take me a couple pages to like remember what had happened because he just like spent so long with like other people. And so I wish it was like spaced out better.
Agreed. I felt that too.
Yeah, because I think at like the start of the book, it was like one chapter for each of them, but then it would be like 3 chapters for each of them. And I was like, why are you getting longer?
This is fair.
I was attacked by a cat over like the whole Hades taproot part. I liked that scene too. I liked any of the scenes in both books when we went down into the cities. I found them really interesting.
I agree.
I don't like those parts.
I do.
Also, this is something that the recap says that I had to go back and read the prologue. Apparently, wait, where did I just see this? Theus was imprinted on a baby. This was the baby scene in the prologue to book 1.
Huh?
So, okay, this says, like many of the missing, Theus, like many of the missing, was born on Earth and brought to Abeth as a machine-hosted intelligence, which I did not get that either.
I thought he was a
as
demon.
Eris, it's not clear if he's truly alive or a copy of man who is now dead, where Eris was eventually downloaded into a realistic but mechanical body. Theus was imprinted on a baby. This was the baby seen in the prologue to book 1, the baby of whom the ice witch Agatha predicted greatness and fire. The fact that Theus managed to pull himself together and is able to function so well is a clear indication that whoever he was before, he was an individual of exceptionally strong will and also someone who required the majority of his personality to be purified before he was deemed fit to ascend. I'm like, I read that earlier and I was like, wait, what the fuck?
I 100% thought that baby was Yaz and then forgot about it.
Yeah, me too. If you're gonna do that, like if you're gonna have a prologue that like connects later on, I need it to connect in the same book that the prologue happened in, because I would never remember that. Like, or connect it.
Like, give us a second prologue in book 2 referencing it.
I didn't need it to connect in book 1, but I needed it to be like apparent that it connected. And it was not. That whole thing confused me even more. Honestly, when I read the recap, it did that for me, and I think that everyone was going to read it and be like, we learned all of those things, because I did not.
But also, like, he implies, in my opinion, and since I saw heads nodding, that Theus is a demon. Like, that's how it feels from the way it's described with all the black, like, and how Yaz refers to it. So then referring to him as, like, an artificial intelligence that was uploaded doesn't feel accurate to me.
Well, because he purified himself.
Right, but then he wasn't a like machine. Like, are you saying, did I mishear that? It sounded like he was like a technology, like upload.
So I think the entire missing are AI that came to this planet, essentially.
Oh, I didn't think of them as AI. I thought of them as people who get rid of parts of their soul.
Which I didn't think of either, but I'm pretty sure that's what this is saying.
Ooh, great. Can we have Mark just like pop in real quick and explain all that and then leave?
I can probably go find him, because I was reading the like back thing, and apparently he was born in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, which is where I currently live.
I was going to say, I get this message on Facebook.
Knock, knock.
I don't know why I was reading the back, but I think I got bored of the book, so I decided to read something else by him. I read his little book, and I was like, Champaign-Urbana, I go to school here. Cool.
I love that he like worked on decision reasoning theory. I don't know what that is necessarily, but it sounds really cool.
Something with math.
I completely agree with this. I think that Nona is very clearly it's the Book of the Ancestors, her story, and this is not Yaz's story. Like, the Book of the Ice has nothing to do with Yaz. I think it's about everything else going on. I think it's about the battle for Zeus versus Taproot, and then where Theus comes into it as well, and there's just so much that Yaz just feels like she's there.
I disagree.
Interesting.
I think that like her character, maybe because I'm just clinging to that part the most, but I feel like her character journey is what it's about. Like, first her realizing that she she is not okay letting someone be thrown into the pit, then her realizing that she actually is not okay with anyone being left behind, and her kind of progression and her becoming this hero in her own right and choosing that is what it to me feels like it's about.
That's fair. Yeah, I could see that. I
like
feel like I didn't
There's
care
so
enough
much
about
going
the
on around
characters
her.
in this one, especially on reread, that like I didn't feel like she even cared about other characters. But I was probably just in the plot hole.
Yeah, I was gonna say what Cassidy said sounds very much like plot-driven reader, and then what Maria said sounds very much character-driven reader.
Would be what I'm just like teasing out of it.
Yeah.
Maria's like, give me the character development right now, thanks.
It's like I need a plot, but like I think at the end of the day, I would also say I'm a pretty character-driven reader.
Yeah, I definitely need characters I care about to like love a book, but like I don't want to watch a character do literally nothing forever. So
I've realized I'm emotion driven even more than character, I think. So for me, if a book, even if I don't love the characters themselves, if the book, what's happening in the plot or the ideas it's proposing, like make me either excited or emotional, like if they affect me emotionally, other than rage.
You don't like to be like
I don't like to be annoyed.
Because Ancestor brought out every emotion from you.
I don't like to be angry.
I don't like to be angry.
Which maybe I take it back. Maybe don't read A Crown of Oaths and Curses, even though the politics is really cool. I think you'll be angry at it.
Yeah, you'll be angry. Don't read that.
I don't think anything left to say. Honestly, I think that we're just gonna have to read the third book and then be utterly confused and hope the third book makes it. Sahara, are you continuing?
I think I need to read Book of the Ancestor before
I actually would maybe agree. From what I've heard, I think we're going into the same setting as Book of the Ancestor.
Yeah.
Rachel, can you confirm you've read it? What are your thoughts on whether she has to read Book of the Ancestor first? Which I think we're losing Jonathan too, but I think Jonathan's going to start with Prince of Thorns.
That's an interesting thing to do there, Jonathan.
This is fair, Jonathan. I do see this point.
Yeah.
I assumed Theus was the baby, but it was never stated. I think I thought of that at the end of the first book. I didn't think he was in the baby, though.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Don't connect with Yaz.
Mm-hmm.
I also have a problem with how he does like romance in his books in both series, but I think even more in this one. I don't like it, and I don't like I don't like Quina, however we say her name. Quinoa, last time.
It's Quina in the audiobook.
Quinoa. I don't like her character in this book. Like, I think I would have enjoyed her more if it wasn't that, like, all of a sudden she's into Thurin. And that might be just because we need to, like, ease him out of the way so that Yaz can move on with Eris. Like, I just don't like the suddenness and the very, like, it's a focus, but it's not a focus. I
don't remember any of this romance either.
It doesn't bother me.
Just like annoyed me every time.
I remember it in the
I
first
didn't
book.
get Eris from
this book.
Yeah.
Do we think he's endgame? Like, or do we think anyone's endgame?
No.
I don't know.
I don't think he does endgame. I think he does.
Yeah.
Here, take it.
He'll allude to something, but like
Yeah.
he won't actually say.
Yeah, but we did get like a resolution to the love triangle in Book of the Ancestor.
Yeah.
So
But
I
that's
want
what
to
I'm saying.
know
It's
what
like
the resolution.
it wasn't like particularly satisfying. It was just like
No.
yeah.
I don't
But,
like how he does it at
I
all.
feel like that's
Yeah.
just how he does romance in general. He'll just like stick a line in it, being like, "This is happening," and then not at all be like, "Make us actually believe that."
He does it better in side characters, but then he oftentimes ruins those like romances for the sake of ruining them. Like I think I forget the names, but Kayal or Kaylal, the one from book 1 who whose romantic interest, who I also don't remember the name of, was killed. Like I could have felt things for them. They were like they could have had potential.
I don't remember any of these.
I don't remember that.
One who I think his legs are like not.
I remember him. I just don't remember the romance part.
Okay. Well, his love interest dies in book 1, or like his partner, and it was sad, and I was upset about it.
Wow. On that note, I think I can move on to Book of the Ancestor connections. So bye, Sahar.
Bye. Have fun.
Wait, we're not continuing on to book 3 then. You're gonna read book
I saw Rachel's comment. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Unless
Well.
I for some reason binge Book of the Ancestor next month. Who knows?
That would be great. I would love that for you.
Go for it.
Thanks for having me.
Don't subscribe to Sahar. She's linked down below. I love Sahar. So you should. She literally has some of my favorite reading taste.
Oh, thanks. Okay, bye.
Okay. One of the things I want to talk about is literally the romance that you just talked about, Maria, because there is a book titled The Life of the other like missing guy that we're with. What is his name? I can't remember character names.
Eris? Wait, no, he's the AI. The one who's put himself into a non-human body.
Yes.
Eris. Yeah.
That we see in Book of the Ancestor. That Sister Pan opens the book and a flower falls out of. So there was obviously some kind of romance, I think, happening there. So I think we're going to see that in the next book.
If I had to predict, I would think Yaz ends up with him, or like there's an implication, because I think Thurin is being moved out of the way for Quinoa. Like I genuinely think that's why that was.
I'm wondering if it's going to be the girl that we now know as the sister. I wonder the zombie series. Can't remember the name.
Oh wait, sorry. Hold on. You're saying that you think it's Malaya's love
Yes.
interest?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, I didn't follow that when you just.
Yes. This.
Interesting.
Obviously the big thing that I feel like was like so amazing for me when I first read this was the reveal about we meet Sister Pan. And I was just like, oh my god, screaming, crying, throwing up. This is cool to see like her beginning, because she was my favorite character, like not my favorite character, but I thought she was so interesting.
Yeah.
Sister?
Yeah, but also at the same time, I don't want to
my
get emotionally
prediction
attached
was-
to her because I know how it all ends.
Yes. And so I think that the connection to the path makes sense, because that's why she never leaves the path, is because she's also in Hades' realm all the time. That was my prediction.
That makes sense.
See, I wasn't I was very off with my prediction in book 1. However, not off as much because she is in this series. So
Yeah, I mean, you were.
I said
you were
Yaz
on the right
was gonna
track
be
because
Sister
you were
Pan.
saying
I think
that
you were
came
close.
before.
Yeah, I said Yaz was Sister Pan.
I liked the reveal, but I also felt like for how connected and like emotional I felt about Sister Pan's Book of the Ancestor path character arc, I thought I should like Malaya or whatever her name is more with that reveal, and I don't like her. I feel like she's kind of boring.
I feel
I don't think we got that much of her.
Page time. Yeah, although we do learn about her friend on the ice that dies, whose name is Nina, and we see in Book of the Ancestor at one point she slips up and she says Nina instead of Nona, which I thought was a fun little like.
Interesting.
Oh,
I thought we were gonna get the fact that it was Nona before they killed off Nina. Like I thought there was gonna be this is gonna cross paths somehow, and they had, especially because they were hearing a different language, I thought they mistranslated it.
Yeah, I had no idea where this was. I thought it was going to happen at the same time. I for sure, when I originally watched, I thought they were going to read. I was like, they're going to be connected. They're going to happen at the same time as each other. And we're going to see like little snippets. And then when I got that, I was like, oh, it happens before. And then I feel like, is that the only last?
Was the romance thing the thing you wanted to say when we started talking about, Mel, help me out here. What was the thing we were talking about?
That was about the connection to the path and how I think that the path, I think the path is somehow like AI-ish. I think it's not magic based.
I think it's like tech based.
Yes, because now we know that, well, from what I've heard, they're all like somewhat like there's a lot of tech, there's a lot of AI happening, a lot of like uploading and de-uploading or whatever.
I'm actually annoyed that it's not marketed as science fiction or sci-fantasy at the least. And I get why, because it's kind of like it spoils the reveals. But I also think that people who like that would be more drawn to it, and I think they would enjoy it more.
I would agree. He does have like a sci-fi series that a lot of people love.
But I think a lot of times, like, they would just assume this is not.
Yeah.
And it very much, like, even more than other ones I've read, And I also want to watch someone who reads sci-fi review this, because I wonder if I'm not enjoying it for the same reason I wasn't enjoying like sci-fis I've tried, where it just goes over my head.
I will say a lot of this goes over my head, and I just let
Same.
it go in this one. I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, the Reddit will be my
Reddit help.
to help me understand things.
But I also again, I haven't tried a lot of sci-fi, but for the ones I've tried, I feel like they focus a lot on the reveals and on like that kind of information and like building that part of the world more than they focus on characters and on like fantasy plots. So it would kind of give me at least context for why I don't enjoy it the way
that.
Yeah.
It definitely is like a sci fantasy for sure. In this one especially, it definitely can be marketed that way. I think a little bit in Book the Ancestor, but you don't really see it, and then you come here and you're like, shit, this is sci-fi. What else? I feel like there was something else that like. Oh, and Taproot we see in Book the Ancestor at the arc at the end. He's like in there.
The computer, right? That's like running it all.
So obviously we know a little bit there.
Also, I'm only now just thinking, is all of like the Greek stuff because of the fact that like a lot of like space missions and stuff are given like a top version of this?
Yeah.
Smart.
That's actually, I only literally had that thought like,
why are
that could be it.
My next question is why are they Greek themed? Like, do we know this?
I don't, but I don't really know.
Gods in the sky?
Like, surely the moon mission should have been Artemis since she's the goddess of the moon, but whatever.
Yeah. So I think that's it.
Yeah.
I didn't have that much to say. I just had to talk about Sister Pan because I was like, oh my god, we get to meet her.
I like her.
Oh, I thought it was interesting that we learned where the stars get their power. Like they say it's pretty much just tapping into the path too, right? Like it's kind of like opening up a hole, grabbing power from the path. Is that correct?
I don't remember this part, but that also still makes me think techie.
Yeah. Again, it's like it was interesting, but it's a different vibe than like you get when you're reading it before the reveal.
But it's so
it does kill me how different Book of the Ancestor feels very fantasy to me, and this feels very sci-fi to me. And for them to be that different yet that closely connected bugs me a little bit.
I would just love to see, because like, I mean, it's like, what's the novella by Adrian Tchaikovsky? Elder Race. I read it last year for RealmAthon. And because like on the one hand, I think the female point of view, she believes that this guy is magical, but he's actually just a person with a lot of tech. And so like it's the two of their point of views, they completely believe different things. And like I would love to see how you get from like the book of the Eyes, where they're like, oh, it's all this tech stuff, to like get to like the Book of the Ancestor, where it's like, oh, this is magic.
The thing is, the ice tribes keep to themselves, and they also don't know. Only a very specific people that know any of the science.
But they're there.
It doesn't bother me because I think if you didn't know science, and like obviously, I think they still think it's magic, not tech. Even the people who are there, because they don't fully understand it, because it's been so long since the Missing came here with their technology. The Missing had the technology. From what we know, the 4 tribes did not. So the Missing came with their technology. In this little recap, they said they cleared themselves of their purities and told everyone else, they said, don't let anyone follow us, which is now why Zeus wants to kill them all, because he's trying to not let people follow them. But and so the easiest way to do that is to get rid of them. So like I think you would think this is magic. Like if you knew nothing about science, it would come across as magic to me. And so I think Nona and that feeling magical feels very real to me, of what someone in that experience would feel. So I don't hate that they feel very different. I think we're just seeing a very different side of the world.
Yeah, but also it does kind of make me laugh that like Sister Pan, like in that original series, is all like, you know, the path is a magical thing in the world, and like in here she's like,
I feel like that's a religion thing though. Like I feel like people who have faith tend to give things like a magical, I'm not going to be able to explain this in human terms explanation, versus like it's technology.
Well, I still think that Yaz thinks it's magic. Like Yaz does not think it's science.
Yeah.
I think my issue, and I agree with Mel about how different they are, that I think you would understand Book of the Ancestor more if you knew it was science tech. Just like I think going into this series, because we went in from that one, we thought it was magic, and therefore now it's science. Like I feel like that would help me understand scenes more. It's confusing that now, like when you were talking about, for example, the path being like, it was Theus, for example, being uploaded on all the path everywhere. Versus seeing him as a demon. Like I just think it's a character, or like a story reader disconnect.
That's fair. I think it's fun for me to find out. And I think that if I went into the Book of the Ancestor wanting more sci-fi, I would want more sci-fi. Like if I thought it was sci-fi, that doesn't scream sci-fantasy enough to me. Even like there is the stuff with the moon and the quarter.
Still screams more fantasy.
I wonder if people who read the series would be disappointed in book 1 and not continue because it's also more fantasy, and then you get it in book 2. So I don't know.
I don't know. Like for me, like it's fun to like see all this. So I think it just depends on who you are.
It's before.
Sherry, it's before. Did you? Yeah, it's before, and the person that Yaz saves at the end is Sister Pan, but as a child.
Do we think that Yular, who, like, unless Yaz kills him off in book 3, do we think that he is the Archon that, like, Arkin, or however you say that dies in Book of the Ancestor, that then is replaced by the Power Hunger? Like, do you remember that whole thing?
Yes, I'm really intrigued to find out who Eula is, and so I could see that.
Because we don't get a lot of that Archon. We just kind of hear about them existing, and I think it was a male, so I'm like, it could be he's still around.
I see that.
I feel like the eye thing would have been mentioned.
Yeah. You're good, Sherry. Yeah, this is the thing. It also happens in Prince of Thorns. But that's not really... I feel like that feels slightly different because that's Earth. Well, as far as we know, I guess that's Earth. So it's the same as Wheel of Time. It's just set in the future.
I was going to say something. I forgot.
My issue isn't like that it is science. My issue is that I don't understand it's science until he tells me it's science. And I want to be able to, like, it's kind of like how the recaps, like I want to know things and before he spells it out.
Yeah, you want the expectations there to like look for those things then.
I want to understand it versus having to tell me. Yeah.
I think it's just the characters understanding versus our understanding.
Also, I don't think the word magic is ever actually awful.
It isn't. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
It's bloods more than anything.
Okay, I think that's it. I don't think we have anything else to say. Is everyone continuing here?
I'll continue for the FOMO, like the group. I don't expect to like it that much, but I like the chats.
Who knows? Maybe it'll be your favorite book ever.
I'm very
of this, you know.
I'm interested to see where I sit on it. Because I'm like, was it just the reread that did me dirty? Or like, and I'll love it?
Also, it's so much harder to like love books when you're reading them for a book club because you're reading them, like trying to like
we're thinking critically
to talk about.
I would agree. Also, because this book is just so reveal heavy that like there's nothing else to it, and I knew all the reveals, and I didn't read it like so. I read Book of the Ancestor far enough back that I remembered enough, but forgot some things. Anything that I forgot in this, I also forgot already this time. So I remembered the like main things. So, yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna hit leave studio. Pull a Kristen. Thanks everyone for hanging out. We are reading this. Oh God, when is the live show for this?
Early April,
March and April. Book. So early May, sometime in May. Not Escape. So I will probably have to find a weekend to do that in May. I will have to see what her plans are.
Yep, I have to deal with that too. So, or work around it, not deal with it.
So second or third weekend probably again for this.
Sounds good.
Amen. I really need to finish this right before the live show. Pull Alexi.
Read it all the day of.
Okay. Well, bye friends.